the Place의 블루란입니다. 반갑습니다. 네, 지금은 전 세계에서 기후 위기로 힘들어하는 가운데 서천에 아주 특별한 곳이 있다고 해서 찾아왔는데 바로 녹색 서점인 문화공간 길담. 짜잔. 들어오니까 되게 조용조용하고 평온한 느낌이 나네요. 아하, 여기 보시면 이렇게 녹색 평면 책들이 다 있거든요. 그리고 옆에 있는 이게 강의겠죠? 강의에 관련된 포스터인데 이제 왜 녹색 서점이라고 하는지 알겠네요. 이런 책들이 있네. 고주 불능지구, 그렇지. 모두를 위한 지구. 그리고 밤의 여행자들, 이거 상도 받았네. 영국 대거상 번역 추리 소설상 수상 작품. 이거 나중에 한번 읽어봐야겠네요. 그리고 좀 더 앞으로 오면 여기 이제 음료 주문할 수가 있네. 공정무역 캐시 투유? 혹시 그 공정무역 캐시 투유 한 잔 주시겠어요? 야, 한 잔 하겠습니다. 짠. 공정무역의 힘 지금 느껴지네요. 너무 시원해요. 혹시 얼마나 들으면 될까요?
네, 저희 문화공간 길담 모든 음료는 문화비 5,000원입니다.
문화비 5,000원, 그거는 당연히 내줘야죠. 감사합니다. 저기 뒤에도 공간 하나 보이는데 뭘까요? 한번 가볼까요? 뭔가 사진 같은 거 전시가 되어 있는데, 이거 뭘까요? 그럼 문화 이벤트 프로그램 같은 건데, 비건 페스티벌 절정 그런 것도 하나 봐요. 근데 제 눈에 들어오는 건 바로 여기 장박으로 보면 되게 이쁜, 정말 예쁜 한옥집이 있는데 상전제입니다. 정말 유명한 데이트 코스로 유명한데 여기 서점 들렸다가 나와서 여자친구랑 데이트하면 딱입니다. 너무 궁금한 게 많아서 한번 바로 대표님 만나러 보겠습니다. 대표님!
저 문화공간 길담의 대표 일하고 있는 김석진이라고 합니다.
반갑습니다. 네, 언제부터 이 서점을 운영하게 되셨어요?
이 서점이 만들어진 건 한 14년, 5년 정도 돼요. 근데 제가 다 운영한 건 아니고요. 저의 스승이고 멘토이신 박성준 선생님이 만드신 거를 한 4, 5년 전부터 후학들이 맡아서 운영하고 있습니다. 만드셨을 때는 전반적인 인문학으로 하셨는데 누구나 알다시피 요새 지구가 뜨겁잖아요.
오늘도 아주 핫합니다.
그래서 기후 문제를 좀 더 중점적으로 다루는 서점과 북카페를 만들자 하고 4년부터 좀 초점을 그렇게 잡아봤습니다.
이 영상을 보고 계신 해외 독자들에게 문화공간 길담 소개 좀 해주시면 대단히 감사하겠습니다.
네, 여기 길담이거든요. 그 길은 무엇을 의미하냐면은 우리가 함께 행복과 평화의 길을 가자라는 거에서 길을 따오셨고요. 담, 울타리라는 뜻에서 저녁이 되고 힘들 때는 그 울타리 안에서 쉬자, 그 담 안에서 쉬자, 그 담 안에서 위로해주고 또 힘도 서로 힘나게 해주고 그런 의미에서 담, 그래서 길담입니다. 그래서 외국 분들이 오신다면은 외국에도 이런 공간이 많이 있다고 들었는데요. 한국적인 걸 많이 느낄 수는 없겠지만은 또 한국인들이 기후 문제나 또 사람들이 평화롭게 사는 문제에 대해서 어떻게 고민하고 담소를 나누는가를 함께 느껴볼 수 있는 공간일 것 같아요.
아, 저도 나중에 기회가 되면 또 한번 놀러 와야겠네요.
꼭 오십시오.
네,
애인 데리고 애인 모시고 오세요.
당연하죠.
네.
아, 네, 감사했습니다.
네, 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
고맙습니다.
수고
수고하셨고요.
많으셨습니다.
네.
근데 얘네 이 책들도 다 뭐죠?
근데 한국말을 잘 하시니까요. 이런 잡지도 좀 읽어보시고.
논문인가요? 아, 잡지.
논문도 좀 많아요.
아, 논문.
할멈네 마당 대단히 할멈네 마당엔 늘 흙냄새가 먼저 깔린다. 배차는 조용히 숨을 고르고 그 손끝에 눌려 앉는다. 붉게 변한 살 사이에는 아무 말 없이 살아는 날들이 묻어있다. 아침바람이 배차를 품고 산등성이를 넘자 흙은 그 발자국을 다시 품어 안는다. 깊은 항아리 사이로 겨울이 조용히 익어갑니다.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting today, the National Assembly will hold a two-day hearing on Coupang to examine the data breach at the retail giant, along with allegations of unfair trade practices and labor conditions. This comes a day after the company unveiled a compensation plan for those affected by the data leak. North Korea says Kim Jong-un visited a factory manufacturing multiple rocket launchers, saying the weapon system is a core strike capability that will significantly boost the regime's military power. As the United States works to broker a peace deal to end the Ukraine war, President Donald Trump says he spoke with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin over the phone, a day after meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The call came as Russia accused Ukraine of launching a drone attack on one of President Putin's residences. We begin this morning at the National Assembly that's set to hold a two-day hearing starting this morning to examine the recent data breach and personal information leak at Coupang, along with allegations of unfair trade practices and labor conditions. The hearing will be conducted under Article 63 of the National Assembly Act and led by the Science, ICT, Broadcasting and Communications Committee in a joint session with 6 related standing committees. 13 current and former Coupang executives have been called as witnesses. However, founder and board chairman Kim Bum-seok, as well as other key executives, will not attend the hearing. The main opposition People Power Party has also decided not to attend, arguing the case should be handled through a parliamentary investigation and overseen by the Political Affairs Committee. Meanwhile, Coupang on Monday unveiled a compensation package for data leak victims, saying it'll provide coupons worth 50,000 Korean won to those affected. But the measure is drawing criticism as users who previously withdrew from Coupang must rejoin the platform again to use the vouchers. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Following a massive personal data breach in November, e-commerce giant Coupang on Monday announced a compensation plan worth around 1.68 trillion Korean won. That is around 1.17 billion US dollars. Under the plan, Coupang will provide 50,000 won discount coupons per person to 33.7 million customers. This will include all Coupang WOW members, regular users, and former members who have withdrawn from the services. The compensation payments will be made gradually starting January 15th next year. The purchase coupons consist of those usable in each of Coupang's services. 5,000 won for Coupang, 5,000 for Coupang Eats, the food delivery service, 20,000 for Coupang's travel products, Coupang Travel, and another 20,000 for our luxury beauty and fashion products. All services except Coupang Eats are available through the Coupang app to both WOW members and regular members. Coupang Eats requires downloading the separate food delivery app. Users who previously withdrew from Coupang must rejoin the platform in order to use the vouchers. Coupang's interim chief executive officer Harold Rogers said in a press release that taking this incident as a turning point, Coupang will embrace customer-centric principles and fulfill its responsibilities to the very end, transforming into a company that customers can trust. The announcement of the compensation plan follows an apology issued by Coupang founder Kim Bum-seok on Sunday, marking his first public apology regarding the data breach. In a written public statement that came out nearly a month after the breach was first made public, Kim said he was deeply sorry for the inadequate initial response and lack of communication, but has also notified that he will not attend the joint National Assembly hearing scheduled to begin on Tuesday. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
North Korea has been stepping up its military activities in recent days. This comes after its state media said this morning that leader Kim Jong-un visited a munitions factory following his overseeing of a long-range cruise missile launch over the weekend. Our Park Won-woo has more.
North Korean state media reported Tuesday that leader Kim Jong-un visited a munitions factory that produces multiple rocket launchers capable of carrying nuclear warheads and called for a revolution in modernizing artillery weapon systems. According to the Korean Central News Agency, Kim inspected a major military-industrial enterprise on Sunday, reviewing the production status of multiple rocket launcher vehicles. During the inspection, Kim was accompanied by senior officials, including senior party and military leaders. Kim reportedly said the factory plays a crucial role in implementing the ruling party's strategy to modernize and expand long-range artillery forces, while describing the weapon system as a core strike capability that would significantly strengthen the country's artillery power. He also said it features high precision and a powerful destructive capability and could be used in concentrated strikes during military operations, while praising the North's strength and technology. The visit comes amid a series of recent military-related activities by Kim. Also on Sunday, Kim reportedly observed the long-range strategic cruise missile launch, and the week before, he visited a nuclear-powered submarine construction site. He expressed the need to secure a strong production capacity to meet future munitions goals, which will be presented at the upcoming ruling party's 9th Congress early in 2026. 박건우, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, North Korea is continuing to build up its nuclear capabilities. And with major events coming up in the United States in 2026, including the midterm elections and a possible visit by President Trump to China in April, attention is now focused on whether the regime will return to dialogue next year. For more on this, we're joined today by Robert Kelly, Professor of International Relations at Busan National University. Professor Kelly, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So looking back at Trump's first term, and as we head into 2026, what should we expect when it comes to Washington's relationship with North Korea? Do you see any chance of renewed dialogue between Trump and Kim Jong-un in the coming year?
I really don't. I think Donald Trump is primarily interested in diplomacy to the extent that it sort of accentuates his domestic power and influence in the United States. He's in search of prestige. I think it's pretty clear, for example, that Donald Trump wants to win a Nobel Prize, and that's driving a lot of his interest in his peacemaking initiatives in Ukraine, for example. And there's not really much to be gotten from North Korea. That is to say that I don't really think that Trump is particularly interested in substantive issues on the Korean Peninsula. I really think that the freelancing that he did here, you're sort of seeing the old pictures from 2018. That was really driven by Trump's own personal desire for sort of acclaim and media coverage and the rest of it. And that didn't work. Back in 2018, Trump got a great deal of criticism at the time, right? Nothing really came of it. North Korea didn't really give up on anything. They didn't really move on anything. They made no major concessions. And so I don't think Trump really wants to go back into that unless he thinks that the North Koreans are really willing to come to the table, and it just doesn't look like they are. The North Koreans are now in a tighter embrace of China and Russia because of the Ukraine war. They're sort of, I'm not sure it's quite an alliance, but people are talking about it as sort of an axis or something like that. And so the North Koreans don't really need to come to the table the way they did before. And so I'm actually quite skeptical that Trump will meet with them. They're probably not going to give him much. And I think that's why you basically haven't heard Trump talk about Kim Jong-un really at all this year. And so I'd be very, very skeptical if anything comes of it next year. I mean, it's always possible, right? I mean, Trump kind of swings his opinion from one thing to the next, on short notice. He's very fickle, but I don't really see any structural push on the U.S. side for negotiation with North Korea.
I see. Like you just mentioned, compared to his first term, President Trump has been talking much less about North Korea. And with Pyongyang, left out of the U.S. national security strategy unveiled recently, many people believe Washington no longer sees it as a top priority. How should South Korea navigate this shift?
Yeah, I think South Korea is really kind of increasingly on its own here. I think the alliance will stay in place, right? I'm not sure that Donald Trump himself likes the alliance much. But we know that the U.S. Congress does, right? And the Defense Department, broadly speaking, is supportive of the continued relationship. General Brunson, for example, the head of USFK in South Korea, speaks sort of really affirmingly and constantly runs around Korea and gives public talks and stuff like that. So I think there's a kind of bureaucratic inertia behind the U.S.-Korea relationship. But I don't think at the top level, at the elite level, right, the Trump administration particularly cares much or is particularly interested in this and is basically content to leave South Korea or North Korea to South Korea. And so South Korea's got to think about how it wants to do this, right? I mean, the obvious options, right, would be to go to China or to Japan and try to come up with some kind of arrangement, some kind of maybe united front to go and talk to the North Koreans right here, the other responsible partners of Northeast Asia. We want to talk to you. I think if South Korea goes and engages North Korea alone, I'm not really sure that will work terribly well. Moon Jae-in tried that, and it didn't really work terribly well. So my sense is that the South Koreans are really kind of in a period of sort of searching for a new approach. The Americans aren't really going to be involved very much, and so South Korea's got to either do it on its own or sort of start talking to regional partners. But the Americans are kind of checked out, and I would imagine that will be the case as long as Donald Trump is president.
I see. And while that's happening, North Korea says it tested cruise missiles over the weekend. And after that, reported that Kim Jong-un inspected a factory producing multiple rocket launchers. How advanced is North Korea's nuclear program at this point?
Yeah, pretty advanced. I think the nuclear weapons are basically in place. That is to say, the North Koreans almost certainly have a large nuclear weapon of at least 150 kilotons in yield. And that's been around since 2017. The real trick, I think, for the North Koreans now is developing a missile capacity. That is, they need some kind of vehicle to actually deliver a nuclear weapon to a target. That's been tricky for North Korea in part because North Korea is contained geographically. It's sort of surrounded by a lot of other countries. So missile launches are tricky for the North, but they're working on it, right? Again, as your imagery is showing right here, the North Koreans are relentlessly testing, right? We know that they can probably reach North America, right? And they can almost certainly reach local targets. And so they're just continuing regional targets. And so they're continuing to develop the program, right? I mean, the North Koreans keep saying to us in the media, we're not stopping. The program is marching relentlessly forward. I think we should gamble with the North Koreans having the ability to basically strike any target within, 8,000 miles with a sizable nuclear weapon. I think that they probably got about 50 to 100. That's kind of the number gets thrown around. We don't really know, of course, but North Korea is an established nuclear power is the short answer to the question.
I see. And last week, it also released new images of what it says it's their first nuclear-powered submarine. What's your take on this, and what message do you think they're trying to send to South Korea and the United States?
Sure. So the big advantage, assuming that means a nuclear engine, right? The big advantage of a nuclear-powered submarine is that it's quiet, and that's what the North Koreans want, right? They would like to be able to put nuclear weapons, missiles on submarines because they're much more defensible, they're much more survivable, right? North Korea itself, geographically, that's territorial space is relatively limited, right? And so the U.S. and South Korea, and possibly Japan, could strike those targets with greater ease than a submarine under sea. And so the North Koreans want to put nuclear weapons on submarines. Most other nuclear powers try to do the same thing. And a nuclear-powered submarine, that is to say, a more quiet submarine than a traditional diesel engine, would be ideal. North Korea's current submarine fleet, we believe, is fairly slow and old and loud, right? And so to the extent that you have a nuclear engine that's quiet, a North Korean nuclear submarine would be much harder to find, and that would improve its nuclear deterrent capacity.
Right. All right, Professor Kelly, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump says he spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the phone to discuss a plan to end the war in Ukraine. The call came after reports of an attempted drone attack on one of Putin's residences, with Moscow blaming Ukraine. Our Isunde has more.
The White House said U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday, continuing high-level diplomacy aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on social media that the call took place just one day after President Trump met with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in Florida. Leavitt described the Trump-Putin call as positive and said the two leaders discussed the situation in Ukraine, though she did not provide details of the conversation. However, the diplomatic push was complicated by allegations from Moscow that Ukraine attempted a drone attack on one of President Putin's residences in northern Russia. Speaking to reporters on Monday, President Trump said the Russian leader told him about the alleged incident. Trump said he was very angry after learning of the claim and warned that such actions were not helpful during a sensitive phase of negotiations.
It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Trump said it was a delicate period and stressed that while fighting on the battlefield is one thing, targeting a leader's residence is another, adding that it was not the right time for such actions. Russia later said it would retaliate. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned that what he called reckless actions would not go unanswered, saying targets and timing for retaliatory strikes had already been determined. However, Ukraine has denied the allegations. President Zelensky called the claims a lie intended to sabotage negotiations, warning that Russia could use the accusation as justification for strikes on government buildings in Kyiv. 이승재, Arirang News.
With just over a month to go until the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy, interest in winter sports is heating up. At the same time, as many look for ways to reflect and reset for the new year, a unique program here in South Korea is offering a blend of both, a so-called curling temple stay. Our An Sung-jin was there.
Along Korea's east coast, overlooking the East Sea, Naksansa Temple has long drawn visitors seeking a pause from everyday life, a place for retreat and reflection.
Whenever I feel down, I often return to temple stays because they offer some healing and a chance to look at the natural landscape.
Since it's the end of the year, I wanted to wrap up the year well, stepping away from everyday life, so I came here with a friend.
Naksansa's Temple Stay program includes a guided tour of the temple grounds and the iconic 해수관음상, a statue gazing out toward the sea. Visitors can also take part in traditional meditation programs such as tea meditation, which emphasizes mindfulness through ritual, and singing bowl meditation, known for its calming vibrations. But this winter, Naksansa Temple is offering something entirely new. Now, the Naksansa Temple stay has gone beyond a conventional stay, creating a unique curling temple stay that combines the excitement of winter sports with a traditional monastic experience. Curling, often described as chess on ice, shares similarities with meditation in that they both bring the mind into focus while caring for the body.
It's thrilling and fun, especially sliding across the ice, even though it's a bit slippery. Through this temple stay, I got to try curling, visit the temple, and meet so many new people.
The initiative aims to broaden the appeal of temple stays while offering a fresh way to explore balance, focus, and teamwork beyond the meditation hall.
As temple stays become increasingly connected with the wellness industry, we're also expanding our programs in partnership with the local community. Our goal is to design programs that allow participants to truly experience the temple culture and take time to rest.
Naksansa Temple is redefining what a temple stay can be. The temple's new program invites visitors to discover balance in an unexpected place, where Buddhist philosophy meets winter sports. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Sokcho.
Good morning, I'm Choo Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. United States President Donald Trump warned Iran that the U.S. could strike again if Tehran rebuilds its nuclear program. Trump delivered the warning on Monday while hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida. Trump said he has heard Iran may be, quote, trying to build up again, and said if that is confirmed, the consequences would be powerful. He also said he wants to reach the second phase of the U.S.-brokered Israel-Hamas ceasefire as quickly as possible, but said Hamas must disarm. Trump again urged Israel's President Isaac Herzog to pardon Netanyahu, who is on trial for corruption. Trump and Netanyahu's meetup in Florida is their sixth meeting since Trump's return to office. China's Air Force, Navy, and missile units are holding joint live fire drills around Taiwan in what Beijing says is a stern warning against Taiwan independence and external interference. China dispatched 89 aircraft and 18 warships on Monday to simulate a total blockade of Taiwan's key ports. Taiwan's aviation authority said flight cancellations and diversions could affect more than 100,000 international travelers as China declared 7 danger zones around the island. Taiwan placed forces on alert and called China, quote, the biggest destroyer of peace. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was not informed in advance but was not worried, citing his strong relationship with Xi Jinping. The drills are scheduled to continue through Tuesday with long-range rocket fire in the Taiwan Strait. Bulgaria on January 1st will officially switch its national currency from the lev to the euro. It becomes the 21st country to adopt the euro after meeting strict EU criteria for inflation and budget deficits, giving it a seat on the European Central Bank's rate-setting council. While businesses have already begun displaying dual prices to simplify the transition, the move has split public opinion. Many citizens fear the change will trigger price hikes, but others expect the euro to eliminate currency conversion costs and deepen Bulgaria's integration into the European economy. British boxer and former world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua is in hospital after a car crash in Nigeria, which killed 2 members of his training team. The accident on Monday occurred on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway when the SUV carrying Joshua lost control while overtaking and slammed into a stationary truck. Police reports indicate the vehicle was traveling well above the legal speed limit. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu personally called Joshua in the hospital to offer condolences for his team members. Joshua was traveling to visit family in Nigeria for New Year. The crash comes just weeks after his knockout victory over Jake Paul in Miami.
From today, it's time to prepare for the winter cold again. Seoul began the day about 7 degrees Celsius colder than yesterday. And tomorrow, the final day of the year, temperatures will drop to -8 degrees here in the capital and below -10 degrees on New Year's Day. And as clean northwesterly air moves in today, air quality will continue to improve. I mean, it was awful outside yesterday, trapped in heavy fine dust all day. Meanwhile, dry conditions persist along the East Coast, along with strong winds, so fire safety is a must. This afternoon, highs will be getting up to 2 degrees in Seoul, 7 degrees Celsius in Daegu, Gwangju, and Gyeongju under brighter skies this afternoon. Those who plan to check out the last sunset and first sunrise of the year will need to dress extra warmly. And for now, we are looking at clear skies for the next few days, but snow is expected in Jeollado provinces and on Jeju Island.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
heritage will unite. We share brilliant values and honor the world's most cherished legacies to pass our heritage on to future generations. Busan invites you. The 48th session of UNESCO World Heritage Committee. July 2026, Busan, Korea.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insight, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you is Tuesday, December 30th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki.
Good morning.
Good morning, and also Grace is with us.
Great to be here.
Great to have you. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's the second day of the final week of 2025, and we're continuing our year-end reflection on the issues that have shaped our society and the lives of young people over the past year. So today's topic is one that almost everyone has strong opinions about, and it's a conversation that can easily go on for hours. So, Ki, do you find that more people around you are getting married, planning families, or have recently gone through life changes?
Well, pretty much at my age, all my friends are pretty much married. Yet, I've definitely noticed a recent increase because I've been receiving many more requests to host a wedding.
I see.
And first birthday celebrations. And I've been to a lot of wedding ceremonies. As a matter of fact, just last weekend, I've been to 3 of them, and I've hosted 2 of them.
3 in 1 week? That sounds long.
Yeah.
Have you seen this happen as well?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of friends who are already married with children, like he said, as well as couples who are planning to get married and have kids soon. And you know, we always hear about how South Korea's birth rates has hit rock bottom. But honestly, when I go to my doctor for my regular pregnancy checkups, there's always a minimum hour wait, and there are so many patients at the clinic. I also recently called the postpartum center, actually, that I'm supposed to stay at after giving birth. And I wanted to extend my stay from 2 weeks to 3, but then I heard that they're not able to accommodate me because there are so many new moms waiting, like on the waiting list, waiting for cancellation. So. Yeah, the answer was no.
Wow, that's such an interesting contrast. So on paper, we hear about record low birth rates, but on the ground, your experience obviously tells a very different story. So we're going to dive deeper into this topic, but first, let's take a look at the screen. South Korea has long been known for struggling with one of the world's lowest birth rates. But this year, we're starting to see signs of change, with births gradually ticking up. That shift comes as marriages are also on the rise, hinting at a possible turning point. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at a low birth rate country at a crossroads. What's different about marriage and birth trends in 2025? What's driving this momentum, and what needs to change in 2026 to keep it going? As we just saw in the video, South Korea may be seeing early signs of a demographic shift, with both marriages and births edging up this year. For a country long defined by record low birth rates, even small movements can feel significant. So when we look at the latest numbers, are we actually seeing signs of change this year, Ki?
Sure, it's actually surprising. South Korea's number of newborns has been increasing for 16 consecutive months. In particular, births in September surpassed 22,000, marking the highest figure since 2020. The total fertility rate has also rebounded from a record low of 0.72 in 2023 to 0.75 last year, and is projected to rise further to 0.8 this year and even 0.85 next year, suggesting a 3-year upward trend. While some argue this may be only a temporary rebound, marriages, an important leading indicator of birth rates, continue to rise. So if you take a look at the screen now, more people are willing to get married and more people want children. So we see a 6.7% increase in people wanting to get married, and we see a whopping 11.2% increase in response for people to have children. So just like that, more positive perceptions around marriage and childbirth are being observed, leading some to interpret this as a possible signal of structural change rather than a short-term fluctuation.
So while some remain a bit cautious about calling this a full rebound, there are indicators suggesting this may not just be a temporary bump, no pun intended. So what factors do you see as driving this recent increase, Grace?
Well, the rise in birth rates appear to have been largely influenced by the increase in marriages and newlyweds starting to have children following the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, expanded policy efforts for families with children is also expected to have influenced this shift in people's desires to grow their families. And we're seeing employment patterns among women in the span of their life cycle also change. In fact, as we can see in the graph, the female employment rate for women in Korea is high in the 30s, but it tends to decline as they enter their 40s and onwards when they experience breaks in their careers due to marriage, childbirth, and child care, leading to a phenomenon that's referred to as the M curve. And we can also see that the employment rate among women in their 30s increased significantly this year compared to 10 years ago in 2015 from 53% to 73%, mainly on the back of government efforts to promote work-life balance and encourage men to become increasingly involved in childcare and housework. And industry insiders say that the employment rate for married women with children also hit a record high of 64% this year. And last year, the rate of male parental leave surpassed 10% for the first time ever.
And what's important to point out that it isn't just about the numbers, but also there's policies that have really impacted everyday life. So, there's so many of these changes that the government is also pushing for. Have they also influenced your decision to have children?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was always open to having kids, whether or not I had policy support. But now that I'm experiencing it firsthand, it's definitely nice to have access to various support measures, mainly financial and childcare support. In terms of financial support, central and local governments provide different kinds of stipends for regular checkups and ultrasounds and blood tests, as well as milestone events like tests for genetic abnormalities, which help a lot because medical costs can get really expensive. And because I live in Seoul, the city government even provides a transportation stipend. And they sent us our first ever baby books as well. Wow. Another great benefit from the government is support for a nanny that's going to be helping out for a few weeks after I give birth, which is honestly really relieving for me because my parents live very far away from me in the US.
I can understand how hectic the first couple of weeks is obviously going to be, and it's actually really interesting that they have this kind of policy. And it also puts broader trends into context. So when we look more closely at the marriage and childbirth trends in 2025, are there any distinctive patterns that are emerging, Key?
Sure. Even within the same cohort, those born between 1983 to 1995, which luckily I fall in, higher marriage and birth rates are seen primarily among individuals who hold stable full-time jobs, earn higher labor income or housing. This points to a concerning polarization in marriage and childbirth. At the same time, it also suggests that the issue is less about personal values and more about access to social and economic resources. If these structural constraints are addressed, there remains room for an additional rebound for sure.
So even within the same generation, access to stability obviously seems to matter, sometimes just more than values alone, which is the reality. So at the same time, Grace, there are also some characteristics that are unique to Korea showing up in the data. What kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, while South Korea's birth rate is among the lowest in the world, the rates for multiple births, like for twins and triplets, are among the highest. And now the most obvious reasons are the increase in childbearing age and the advancements of medically assisted reproductive technologies, including infertility treatments. Also, there are many people who find that having and raising multiple children through a single pregnancy and a birthing process is actually more more convenient. And this is said to be a uniquely Korean phenomenon, maybe because of the nature of Korean society that values efficiency.
That's really interesting. So that suggests not just demographic change, but a shift in how people approach childbirth itself. So beyond birth methods, are we also seeing changes in family formation, social norms around marriage is key?
For sure. The share of the birth outside of marriage is also on the rise. So last year alone, the rate reached a record high of 5.8%, suggesting that the traditional notion that having children must follow marriage is gradually weakening, while more diverse family structures are gaining social acceptance. There's notably a very high proportion of cohabiting couples who live together without legally registering their marriage are from the MZ generation, those in their 20s and 30s. In Korea's traditionally conservative society, premarital cohabitation was once considered taboo, but today, however, there is a growing view that if marriage is being considered, living together beforehand can be a practical step, and many couples also choose cohabitation as part of marriage preparation or as just a simple way to reduce their housing costs. Overall, this reflects a broader shift towards prioritizing partnership and quality of life within a shared living relationship, rather than placing primary importance on the institutional meaning or formal sequence of marriage.
So everyone's perspectives and situations different, which is why you can see why people are becoming more, flexible with these kind of stuff. So to get a more global perspective, we're going to talk to someone from a country that's also long battled low birth rates. That conversation will come right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Laura from Spain, another country that, like Korea, has been facing a long-term low birth rate. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So how have marriage and birth rates looked like in Spain this year?
Well, it's striking how, despite the distance, Spain and Korea show remarkably similar demographic trajectories. And you guys were saying how in Korea, marriages have been rising little by little, and so has in Spain. But this increase occurred also with the continued rise of average age of marriage. So now we're talking about people in their mid to late 30s getting married instead of younger generations. Which actually affects the fertility rate as well, because it remains in around 1.1 children per woman. So we could see a little bit of a rise, but it's not as clear as in South Korea. So we cannot really see that there's a rebound. We cannot say there's a rebound yet.
So we mentioned some of the reasons already, but what factors contributed to those low birth rates last year?
Well, basically, it's the economic insecurity and the delayed independence. Youth unemployment, it actually remains at around 25 to 26% in around those under 25, which is the highest rate in the European Union. The salaries are about 1,500 euro per month, but it has been proven that in the major cities, it almost takes 40 to 45% of your salary to rent a house. And it's not even a big house. It's going to be like a one room or a shared room. So that is going to make it very, very hard for Spanish people to, well, first of all, to form a couple. And second of all, to get married and have children. So most of Spanish people, they live with their parents until their very late 30s. And that is why delayed marriage and also low birth rate.
Then Lara, what conditions would need to be in place for people to seriously consider marriage or having children?
Well, obviously, it's going to be long-term economic security, but also stable jobs and affordable housing. And then, as well as in Korea, then family-friendly work environments. You were mentioning about the nanny. By the way, congratulations on your pregnancy. And I don't think we have access to that in Spain. We do have a lot of free education because most of the system is covered by the government. However, it is not as easy to access since it's for free, then it is not easy to access it. There's like a long way for waiting. And then it is also very difficult to find somewhere that is suitable for you. So yeah, family-friendly work environment would be another condition.
I think it's so interesting how obviously Korea and Spain are in completely different continents, but at the core of it, I guess financial concerns are really plaguing a lot of young people in both countries.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because even historically, they both countries have had a very similar economical development. Even in the late 20th century, they both had a very high economical development, and then they both have had the very similar demographic charts. So when you see the charts in the OECD or in all of these reliable sources, you see that Spain and Korea are usually hand in hand, like one is in front of the other. It's very weird in a nice way.
Right. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today, and we learned a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a young person from Spain about how marriage and birth trends are unfolding there. So we wanted to know your thoughts as well. So we asked on the Arirang News YouTube channel, what is most essential for marriage and childbirth? So here's what the results showed. Majority of respondents pointed to having a stable job, accounting for 56%. Home ownership followed at 18%, while 13% said a high-paying job was the key factor. Another 13% cited other considerations, highlighting that while priorities vary, economic stability remains the most dominant concern. So what stands out from these results is that financial stability really does matter, but it's not just about income. Obviously, support systems and ability to raise children without feeling isolated or pressured clearly also plays a major role. So for those who have had children or are raising them right now, Ki, what kinds of support do you think are most helpful before childbirth or while raising a child?
Well, I agree with most of the viewers right there, and as a dad of a 6-year-old kid, more than anything else in general, marriage and also the childbirth requires stability. Stable jobs, stable income, stable housing. When people feel secure about their future, they're far more willing to commit to long-term relationships and start the family, obviously. And from a public policy point of view, it's the same. What matters the most is reducing uncertainty in everyday life. That means consistent government support for employment stability, affordable housing, childcare, and work-life balance. Financial measures especially, not just money given for the birth of a child, but for the caring of the baby at the childcare center, education at the kindergarten, and so on. So when the state helps ease the financial and practical burden of marriage and child rearing, individuals are far more likely to make those life decisions with confidence.
Right. So as someone who's actually carrying a child right now, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with Ki. Financial stability is very important. And like I mentioned before, the financial and childcare measures from the government are very helpful in encouraging new moms and dads when it comes to having children, because they're, honestly the most practical ways to support parents. And I think these policies allow parents to raise their children and also carry on in their careers at the same time, which is important in creating also a perception that having kids is not like a 100% life sacrifice or very burdensome, maybe like it was in previous generations.
So what's striking is that these supports go beyond one-time benefits. They point to deeper structural issues around work, housing, care, and also social expectations. So if we want this upward trend to continue, what changes do you think are essential in 2026?
The birth rate itself is not ultimately an outcome, not the root issue. What's needed is sustained effort to ease structural pressures. Like, we're going back to the same point as housing, employment is so hard, especially when you live in Seoul. At the same time, social welfare systems and public attitudes must continue to evolve to better recognize and support diverse family structures. Like we said before, we have so many different, not the traditional one, but new types of families. Without addressing these underlying conditions, any change in the birth rate is likely to remain limited and temporary.
Right, I think it's so important to really tackle the money issues.
Exactly. As you raise a kid, I mean, you're not there yet, but as you raise the kid, you realize, oh, you're going to need more and more and more money. So that's actually reality. We can't forget about that.
Right. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I hope that we can see the continuation of support measures like this, the ones that we covered today, because I think it's too early to say that we've tackled the issue of low birth rates in South Korea just by looking at the improved recent numbers. It's definitely a larger systemic problem that needs constant attention by lawmakers, as well as individuals and society as a whole.
So what we're seeing isn't a dramatic turnaround, but it's still a significant shift, and whether this momentum lasts will depend less on individual choices and more on whether society creates the conditions that make those choices possible. So as Korea heads into 2026, the challenge isn't simply raising numbers, but sustaining change by building systems that support diverse families and real-life choices. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gens will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Ki.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Also, Grace.
Thanks for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
한반도에서 가장 먼저 아침이 시작되는 곳. 대한민국 최동단에 위치한 섬. 천연기념물 제336호로 지정된 자연유산. 이곳은 경상북도 울릉군 울릉읍 독도입니다. 그런데 일본이 대한민국 고유 영토인 독도를 일본 영토라며 일방적으로 주장하고 있어요. 그 때문에 독도와 관련된 잘못된 정보들이 퍼지고 있답니다. 안녕하세요. 저는 방크에서 활동하는 성혜승 연구원입니다. 방크는 1999년에 설립된 후 지속적으로 독도 바로 알리기 활동을 하고 있는데요. 지금부터 제가 독도에 대한 올바른 정보를 알려드리겠습니다. 독도는 역사적, 지리적, 국제법적으로 명백하게 대한민국 영토라고 할 수 있어요. 대한민국에 현존하는 가장 오래된 역사책인 삼국사기에 보면 독도는 신라 지증왕 13년, 그러니까 512년 전부터 한국 역사에 등장합니다. 대략 1500년 전부터 독도는 우리의 영토였던 거죠. 독도가 한국 땅이라는 역사적 증거는 이렇게 차고 넘쳐요. 지리적으로 살펴보면 일본 영토에서는 독도가 보이지 않지만 독도와 87km 떨어진 울릉도에서는 독도가 육안으로도 보일 정도로 가깝죠. 그리고 또 한 가지 중요한 사실. 독도에는 대한민국 독도경비대가 상주하고 있어요. 왜냐고요? 독도는 명백하게 대한민국이 지배하는 곳이니까요. 독도가 대한민국 고유의 영토라는 사실, 이제 확실히 아시겠죠?